Hello, everyone, and welcome to Telling Your Asset Management Story. Our guest today is Freddie Cox from Knox County Schools. Freddie's journey is a bit unique. He started out as IT support, and he's now the Chief Technology Officer for KCS, bridging the gap between technology and school facilities. In this episode, he'll share how coming from a tech background gives him a fresh perspective and a unique insight on how to manage a large school district's infrastructure. We'll hear about the importance of building trust with maintenance staff and how Freddie is using data to shift from reactive fixes to proactive maintenance. It's a fascinating story of how embracing technology and collaboration can improve everyday life for students and teachers. Freddie, thank you very much for joining us today on this episode of Telling Your Asset Management Story. Really appreciate your time and really excited to dive in and learn more about your story and hopefully provide some great insights and ideas for our audience to take home after the episode. So, always like to start with kind of your background and history. Everybody in the facility and asset world, and I know you come at it from a very unique perspective, has a very unique journey. So can you tell us a little about how you ended up where you are today?
Sure. Well, first, Bill, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's an honor to have this conversation, and good to see you again today. So I'm looking forward to our discussion. As you've already alluded to, I probably come from a little bit of a different background than many of your normal audience may. So I began my career in IT support at the school district that I currently work at, gaining firsthand experience with the challenges of maintaining, upgrading the educational technology that we had in the school district. And I've had the benefit to kind of grow from, the foundational levels of technology being integrated into the schools to the point where now we have one-to-one across all of our facilities in the hands of all of our staff and students. So the experiences that I've had working closely at the school level has really helped, provide me that deep understanding of the daily operational needs in our facilities. Over time, I transitioned to kind of bridge IT and the infrastructure world. I worked as our IT infrastructure manager for the better part of 6 years. And that was on facility upgrades, new construction. During the time, we built 2 new schools. We expanded 2 others. So that really kind of gave me the nuts and bolts experience in, facility management. And now as the Chief Technology Officer, I oversee technology infrastructure, our field techs, but then also we still work really closely with our partners in facilities and operations and maintenance.
So, Freddie, on your journey from kind of, like you said, the IT side to more of an overview at the district with focus on facilities, what were the biggest challenges that you faced personally in making that change, and how did you kind of learn and grow into the new role?
So, a big part of it, our district is rather large. So, a big part is the relationships. I may not be doing a lot of the day-to-day work of, maintaining, upgrading, planning in the facilities. So I have to have the trust, the time in the field with those that are, so that when we're having these conversations, everybody can be, open and honest and trust that the person sitting across the table from them, has the goal of improving the experience for our students and teachers, or making, their jobs easier. And a lot of that come, in the planning phase, thinking about new construction. A lot of the systems that I end up putting in are managed, long-term by other departments. So ensuring that they have, that kind of buy-in when we're choosing, building systems. They're the ones that end up having to support it and be the face of it for the next, 20 plus years.
Sure,
so, those relationships have been really important.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I appreciate the different perspective that you bring to the topic. So really excited to dive in. You did mention, sort of the size of the district. Can you tell us a little bit more about Knox County Schools from the portfolio perspective, and maybe a little bit more from your own perspective, how you're managing the technology across the district.
So, thanks to the work that we've done with Roth, I can confidently say we have 325 assets across 93 sites. That's 108 buildings and then 124 modular or portable classrooms. Our oldest facility was built in 1904 and was originally a train depot.
Interesting.
The average age of our facility is just over 50 years. But on the flip side, we just completed a 30-room expansion on what was our newest high school. We're in the site work phase of constructing a new elementary school, and we purchased land for 2 additional school facilities that we plan to begin over the next 5 years. So we're seeing population shifts and just a slight decline in enrollment, yet still ending up adding to our building portfolio. So efficient use of the buildings is really important for the district.
Excellent. Well, that's great. Thanks for a little bit of the background. And you probably just created the great segue into the next question, and that's really looking at things where you're at today and recent past, and kind of looking at recent past to present. What are your top 3 challenges around facility and asset management that from your perspective and your approach you're tackling with the district, and how are you doing that?
So, for us, we're kind of looking at, longer term, more proactive maintenance model versus, and I don't want to say that we were reactive, because I think that doesn't give a proper foundation for where we started, but actually having the data in place to look at ways that we can, proactively reduce, whether it's downtime, extend asset life, and have the data behind the decisions that we're making. That's kind of how IT got involved in this project, because it's a very data-heavy project when you're looking at 325 assets and collecting all the individual systems that are associated with that portfolio. So, it's a large ship to steer. Our funding hasn't grown dramatically to support the long list of needs. So, really locking down, trying to prioritize those items to move the needle for, keeping our buildings up long term. But that push kind of leads to a pull when we look at existing plans that are in place. So ensuring we have, those sound defensible data points that show the trade-offs are worth the change. Then
Excellent.
I've talked a lot about data, so it's also important that we maintain that data. With a large portfolio, things are always changing. It's hard for me to know everything that's happening in the schools each and every day. So having our maintenance, operations team, new facilities, constructions, individual school projects, keeping those accurate as a challenge. I've alluded to this earlier, but regular communication is really key in overcoming that. One of the things that we're currently doing is realigning our district energy management position from maintenance and operations to new facilities and construction to try to be the bridge between those departments.
Right.
He's getting onboarded right now, so we're hoping to see some fruit from that reorg a little bit later this year, but just trying to make sure that centrally we've got the supports and the open lines of communication to keep this flowing. Excellent. And finally, probably the third challenge is the shifting population that I mentioned earlier. The center part of the city, our population center, keeps moving west at this point. So over the past several decades, that trend has continued. We're 30 plus years into that. That leads to needs for new construction or expansion in areas, of the county where people live. While our existing facilities need upkeep, they aren't getting any younger. So we're trying to ensure in our long-term capital planning strategy that, new facility construction doesn't overtake, planning in other parts of the county.
Right.
The two new facilities that I mentioned earlier are a little more center city, and one is south. So trying to spread that out once again with the data that we've collected from our facilities assessment to ensure that we're investing in communities that have those aging facilities as well, and not just focusing on all the new growth.
Right. I always say to folks, we could solve the deferred capital renewal and maintenance backlog issue if we could just get a ribbon cutting or a golden shovel for a boiler replacement. But unfortunately, those seem to be reserved for the new builds, right? And that's the really attractive stuff that gets a lot of attention. But it's so. How have you balanced that? That so far in terms of engaging with the board and your different stakeholders to keep renewal on the agenda and not just have it focused on these new shiny objects that seem to attract people's attention.
So every year we try to have, ongoing conversations about our capital planning with the board, and that generally starts in the fall. We have a board retreat, and that gives, departments, directors, assistant superintendents the opportunity to, kind of give a little deeper peek into the work than you could probably normally give in, a regular, very formal board meeting. And then, community meetings have become a really big part of our strategy when we look at facility expansion and planning. We look at population data and kind of try to read between the lines where needs may be. But the last few projects that we've done, we've really tried to go out to the community to make sure that we're making the right decisions and they're having an opportunity for input. And, as I've mentioned, that Western expansion, one of the projects that we've added to the capital plan this year is a very large roof upgrade that has been on our list for a while, but is a big, bite to chew. We're, looking at the close to $10 million project. So having the data to be able to defend this is why our priorities have changed has really helped the board understand those shifting needs when something like the roof comes up that maybe we knew about but haven't had the opportunity to properly communicate because we didn't have the data in place.
Cool. With your community engagement that you mentioned, you've kind of ramped up over the last little while. How have they? Because I think that's one area that I see a lot of folks, sometimes are hesitant to share information with the communities and things like that. So how have you guys balanced the sharing, the engagement, and how have your communities responded to that new approach?
So, generally when we come to the community, it is with a few options on the plate just to help focus the conversation and give the community an idea of what is possible with, the financial constraints that we may have. And community meetings are always fun, but it really has been a good, process to help, both the district and, our community members understand the needs, understand, how the district is run to be able to, kind of get behind what's finally decided. So it's been good, but it has to be intentional, what works in one community, we may need to change the strategy for a different community and either increase the frequency or, the locations so that it actually works, for those community members when they're available and not just when it's convenient for the central office.
Right. No, that's really interesting. And I've never really thought of tailoring the approach and tailoring kind of the message and how you bring it forward, community by community. So that's really interesting to hear that you're able to adjust. I mean, it speaks to your knowledge of your stakeholders and the constituents in the different communities. So That's awesome. And have you mentioned sort of, overall declining enrollment, but growth in certain areas. How have the communities, have you looked at, potential school closures or consolidations in the communities? And if so, how did they react to those decisions?
So that's always going to be a sensitive subject, right? Especially when I talk about facilities that have, 50 to 100 years worth of time serving that community.
My dad went there. My grandpa went there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, that is something where one of our current projects, we've come out early that the construction of this will impact, the entire community, right? And that entire community includes, 4 other school buildings. So that when I mentioned tailoring that communication to the audience, that was one where, we go to all the existing schools, have meetings there so that they're, home, right? All while talking about the benefits that a new facility could bring, while giving them options, So this could be an elementary school. This is where we're currently seeing sort of the problems. But, we may want to look at a non-traditional, for us, like a K-8, or we could bring a middle school, and that solves kind of a different problem in the community. But all of those sort of shift how we use existing buildings if we need to close a building. So, ensuring that we're being kind of as transparent as possible with our community members is very important, because they've got long-term investments in those buildings, and they're near to their heart.
Absolutely. Well, I think I really like the transparency, the transparent approach, and kind of that focus on transparency. Because I think in my experience, where a lot of districts get in trouble is where the community start to think things are happening behind closed doors, and there's not that share of information and things like that. So I think it's great to see you bringing those options and sharing those ideas with the community. But as you say, right, it's never an easy thing on a community or for a district to make those decisions. So thanks for sharing how you guys approach it, because I think a lot of school districts have similar issues, and so hearing how you're doing it, I think is going to be really, really valuable. And so to shift gears, we talked a little bit about kind of the current state. Want to look to the future a little bit. 5-10 years down the road, and as the chief technology officer at the district, I'm really intrigued by your answer to this. But how do you see facility and asset management evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? Not just for Knox County, but Knox County Schools, but broader for the industry as a whole. I'd love to get your insights on that, Freddie.
Yeah, so as the tech guy in the room, I will lean heavily on IT, becoming a growing partner in both facility and asset management, across sectors, right? I think we'll continue to see a conversion or a convergence of IT and facility systems, leading to more cohesive facility management strategies. Most large organizations have some building automation already installed, but I think the building automation, reporting, security systems, all the major systems will continue to kind of converge and rely on work that we do on the IT side of the house. Taking that a little step further, all of that creates a ton of data. And that is an area where, AI and machine learning can enable, smarter decision-making, whether that's energy usage, predictive maintenance, these systems and the data that they generate for facility managers, operations, will all help kind of leverage and power the decision-making, and allow us to be even more proactive.
Awesome. Cool. So you came from the IT world and have now kind of morphed into this combined focus on IT and facilities and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you were to speak to a younger you who hadn't quite made that transition yet, or somebody out there who's in technology but sees this convergence of facilities and technology, what advice would you give to that person, or what advice would you give to an IT person or someone with an IT background who sees this and is excited about that opportunity?
So, learning about the technology is always the fun part, right? So making sure that you understand, the kind of how you structure data, how that can be, turned into action. But I will still lean on relationships and communication, because those will be the foundation of your success. If you can't communicate effectively the plans, the dreams, the ideas that you have, then it doesn't matter how strong of a technology or facility stack that you have behind you. You will not be effective as a leader in these realms. So do not underestimate the power of those strong relationships, the trust that comes with those relationships, and the ability to kind of communicate your dreams.
Cool. And any different advice for a facilities person who's trying to lean more in the IT direction, or is it the same?
I think it's kind of the same.
Cool.
We can teach a lot on the IT side, but still having that real ability to communicate with others is going to be key. So polish up those conference conference badges and get out there and meet people.
Awesome. Well, Freddie, you mentioned IT, and given your technology bent, before we wrap up, I wouldn't mind maybe just digging a little bit deeper into the AI AI question as it relates to facility and asset management. So you talked about decision making and energy management, but from your unique perspective at this, where do you see the biggest benefits or the biggest impacts in terms of the change from how we do things today to how we do them in the future that AI is going to bring? Because a lot of the facilities folks I talk to, they have an understanding of AI, but they don't have the technological background. So I'd love to hear some specific things where you think the biggest impacts or change will come.
So, areas that I'm thinking about are efficient use of our current facilities. Where are people? And where are they throughout the day? Are we utilizing these spaces, to meet the needs that we have? It's easy to come up with a number and say the building holds this many people, but the programs that happen in the school, an advanced AP class, will probably have a different number of students in it than, an introductory to biology class.
Right.
So, ensuring that we're able to meet the facility needs of the students who go there and, use that more efficiently. I think that's where AI or machine learning, if we can get the data, how people move throughout the building and see, are we really utilizing this from a scheduling perspective? Are we putting the right teachers in the right room with the right group of kids? And, are those decisions that we've made actually being, kind of followed, so that we're not adding on square footage because that's the easy thing to do. Yeah. It's expensive, but, obviously is a quick way to add capacity. So that's areas where, the AI and machine learning can help us become better with our current facilities.
Excellent. No, I think that it's interesting, right? Because a lot of folks, the best building is the one you don't need to build, because you use the space you have more efficiently and more effectively, right? It costs. There's no extra costs. There's no extra maintenance. There's no extra energy consumption. There's no extra anything really. It's so I really love that idea of using AI and machine learning to optimize how the existing spaces that we're using are, or how we're using them. So, Freddie, any last thoughts or ideas you'd like to share with our audience?
No, I mean, I think we've had a great conversation, Bill, that has spanned, from the nuts and bolts to the machines and the AI overlords. So I've appreciated you having me on here today and having this
Excellent.
conversation, and hopefully somebody out there can find it helpful and learn a little bit today on their walk, run, whatever they may be doing while they're listening or watching this podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Freddie. I really appreciate your time. I know, you've got with a large school district and managing all the technology, you've got a lot of stuff on your plate. And I know you're traveling today as well. So just thanks so much for sharing your ideas and insights. I think your perspective is really unique. I think our audience will really appreciate it. And thanks again for joining us on Telling Your Asset Management Story. And we'll talk to you again soon, Freddie. Thanks.
Sounds good. My pleasure. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was Freddie Cox, Knox County Schools, sharing his asset management story. It's inspiring how an IT support technician evolved into the district's leader for IT, who's improved school facilities. Freddie's highlighted the power of collaboration between technology and the operations team, and how using good data can extend the life of buildings and equipment. His journey shows us that thinking outside of the traditional path and focusing on relationships and data can truly transform a school district's approach to infrastructure asset management. We're grateful to Freddie for sharing his experience, and thanks for listening to Tell Your Asset Management Story.